Cool beans. All right, let me go ahead and get us started. And now I'm going to turn it over to who you really came to hear. All right, so again, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is the March meetup of Louisville .NET. I will say, just some heads up. I mean, we're online. I mean, we're going to definitely be virtual. I would say at least probably until July. And then, then we'll play it by ear. But with that being said, once we can meet back in person, we'll somehow work out a way to do it hybrid. So there's also an online portion. Because I know people are not going to be comfortable to come back right away. And I completely get that. And two, one of the benefits of the pandemic is we get people from outside who are able to join the user group. And I would like to be able to keep that up. I think that's one of the nice things that's come out of all this. All right, so a couple of quick announcements. So our sponsors, always want to thank our sponsors. And even though right now it's kind of low key at the moment, it's still, our long-standing sponsors. So Green Events Technology, but .NET Foundation. We get a lot of help from them. But then also our longtime, supporters, Modus and Tech. Was someone here from Modus? I didn't see.
Yeah, I'm here, Chad.
Oh, okay, great. Did you want to say something real quick, or?
Yeah, just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Andrew Sires. I'm the new business development manager here at Modus. I've been on the job for 3 weeks now, so still getting used to everything, and looking forward to being a part of this group and networking with you guys. So if you guys need anything, please don't hesitate to reach out and let me know.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. All right, and then I do know someone from Tech wanted to be here, but she had a family thing that had to take care of. I know they just released a study that they want to promote. She might actually be joining us near the end after the presentation. Depends what time she gets back from taking care of her family stuff. But there's also tech systems. All right, upcoming meetups. Just so you have an idea what's coming up. It's actually not as blank as it looks. That's just because I don't have final confirmations. But next month we're going to have Jared, and I'm forgetting his last name right now, but he's the developer lead for the C#. Which team was in the C# team? The compiler team, I think it was. And he's going to do this presentation of why C# isn't collapsing under its own weight. And this is actually an interesting conversation. This actually started as an MVP email thread. And, because there were some serious concerns, right? And C# team did a presentation, like, here's what we're doing to make sure, one, that it doesn't fall on its weight, but also what are we doing to make it more accessible to new users while giving, power users, more and more features that they need. So it was a really good presentation. So basically Jared will be giving a non-NDA version of that presentation next month. So really looking forward to that. And in May and June, I'm not ready to announce, but I have them scheduled. I don't have everything confirmed. But basically we should be hearing some really good presenters on those 2 months. And then I'm finally getting the Azure group back going. It kind of went into a hiatus, not intentionally, but it is going to get back going next month. And again, I have the speaker lined up. I'm just waiting to get the final confirmation, but he's already told me he will be available April 22nd. So that will, so be looking forward to that information. All right, definitely want to point out, like I said, I mentioned the .NET Foundation. And sure enough, one of the things that we get from them, and there's probably some people here coming through this, there is the .NET Foundation virtual user group. So basically, this is it's a way for .NET Foundation affiliated groups, which we are affiliated with .NET Foundation, to get the word out of their presentations. But and we don't need this service, but they also provide like YouTube hosting if you don't have the ability to if you don't have the ability that where we were able to do some stuff. But definitely check that out. So meetup.com.net virtual dash cruiser dash group. That's a mouthful. But there's always some really good presentations in there. So because you'll see presentations from all over the world. So there'll be all kinds of presentations at all kinds of times of the day, which is nice. All right, quick little self promotion. I actually stream Monday, Wednesday, Friday at TaleLearCode. Right now we're building an app to manage hosting of other Twitch channels, right? Kind of improving upon what Twitch does for you, right? But we're making a little bit better. And I will say tomorrow night, I'm going to be playing with, so Azure Functions, which I've done Azure Functions many times, but they just released the new functionality that will allow you to use .NET 5 with Azure Functions, and don't do it the same way. So we'll be fooling with that tomorrow night. So that should be really interesting. Codepalooza, August 18th through 2020. You can register now. Call for speakers should go out hopefully this weekend. I'm just trying to get everything arranged. It will be a virtual event. It just boils down to there's just not enough certainties yet. It is interesting. I'm starting to see events go in person. I got an email today that Cincy Day of Deliver let me rephrase it. Cincy Deliver, which used to be Day of Agile. They're going to be in person at the last Friday of July, and a Tech Bash. It's going to be in person near the end of October. So there are conferences coming back online, but I had to make a decision back in January, and financially. All right, because we had to sign a contract or not sign a contract, and there was just too many uncertainties. And even today, there still is. So we'll be online, but we're going to use the same systems we used last year. I think that worked really well. And then I'm going to try to even get even more quantity and more quality. Well, that sounds bad. We have really good speakers, but even more this year. All right, one last thing. We can't go to BJ's, right? Because we're here virtually. But after Harold is done with his presentation, we'll disconnect from Zoom, but we'll disconnect from Twitch, but we'll stay here on Zoom for anyone who wants to stick around and just chat, right? And just a social period, and I will keep that Zoom line going as long as people want to chat, or until about 2:00 when I definitely have to go to bed. One of the two, right? It's. And I joke, but actually we have gone to like 1:00 in the morning. So, all right, with that, I'm really happy to have Harold here tonight. This actually, I think this came up on Twitch, because he does come to my Twitch channel quite a bit after he streams. He actually streams also, and I would. The only problem is he and I stream at the same time. But he actually has some really interesting stuff, which you're going to see some of that stuff during his presentation. I was like, dude, I would love to have you come and talk about some of the stuff you do. And so that's why, we got this presentation, the .NET 5 with Slice of Pie. So it should be really interesting. Also something different, right? I mean, it's, seeing .NET 5 work on a Raspberry Pi within Linux. So definitely, hitting all the boundaries there. So with that, let me let me switch this over to let me get my share to stop. There we go. And then I'm going to spotlight Harold. That way Harold should be the only thing everyone sees.
And I feel sorry for that, for you guys seeing the only thing that I can see right now. I'm seeing myself in the mirror is what I'm saying.
Is this something like this?
So, all right, and then I got vocals coming from somewhere, but I'm not sure where. Oh, here it is. There we go. All right. Harold is all yours now.
All right, fantastic. let me fire up so you can actually see me in person, because a lot of this I don't really have my talking head setup going on there. I do a little bit, but let me go ahead and get started with the slideshow, because, well, yeah, we got to have some slides. We always got to have some slide stuff going on there. And so some introductions. I work for a company Improving. They've made it possible. In fact, this was the first time this is where I started this slide deck, and I really haven't personalized it as much as I probably should have. But I left this on here for a couple of reasons you'll see in the next slide. This is the company I work for. I'm a senior consultant. They make it possible for me to go do fun things, meet crazy people like Chad, and all those other kinds of things. And saying all that, the next slide is we do have some lunch and learns. So if you got nothing to do between 12 p.m. CDT now, I need to update the slide. But from noon to 1 on Fridays, come show up, come hang out. There's a link there to go see all the virtual events. They talk about all kinds of things, Agile, Scrum, C#. I think last Friday they did something about test-driven development, that sort of thing. Occasionally you'll see my face pop up on there as well. And come see us. They're free. Take a bite, leave, that kind of stuff. Oh, we're not really buying the pizza, but, to get a bite of the content and go on.
We're not seeing the slides.
You're not seeing the slides?
No.
Oh, wait a minute. Let me, Twitch fail, serious Twitch fail here, right? There you go. How about that?
Okay, there we go.
Thank you very much. That was I've been streaming now for over a year, and I still make that mistake on all the time. So anyway, improving is what we do, we also, there you go. There's the free lunch and learns. So I've already messed up right out of the box, so I don't figure it can get no worse than that. I've paid my my due to the demo gods, right? Presentation gods. And come see us. Take a bite out of our lunch and learns. And if you want to learn more, you always talk to me more. I'll hang out after the event on the Zoom, but that's not what we're here to talk to today. I do have a little shelf promotion slide. If you want to take a screenshot of this slide, this would be the one to do it. That's got my name, my Twitch handle, my Twitter handle. You can contact me at Improving. There's my YouTube channel, which gets updated occasionally. And then the link at the very bottom, that's a repository to this presentation. It's got some demo code up there. This presentation slide deck's already there. I push it up at the end of every presentation that I do, and that sort of thing, and updates things. So it's a real important slide is what I'm saying. Where's the agenda today? I'm going a little overview of what the .NET 5. I'm sure you're pretty familiar with it, so I don't want to take that long. We can go over some requirements, things that you have to have, things that you would like, I would like you to have. We're going to do a little bit of a setup, and then we're going to do a little hello world there, and we're going to make it better. And I think it's better. Introduce you to, I said talking head, but it's Mr. Big Head, and Mr. Big Head would be this bit of goodness right here. He talks to you every now and then.
In agreeing with you, but then where both you're wrong.
Yeah, he's a bit surly some days, so that kind of thing. But show you how I did a little bit of that and ask a question on that, because I've got an idea for your Code Palooza there, that maybe I do a talk on how Mr. Big Head does all that what he does, and maybe he can do even more time Code Palooza comes along. Then I'll have my ask for you, and then take any questions. And speaking of questions, I'm a pretty informal person. I've hung out with a group a couple times in Louisville.net folks, and they guys seem to be, you folks seem to be pretty informal too. So if you have a question, just shout it out like you told me. Hey, you don't see the slides? Yell at me. It's all right. So I have a question. I may know, I may not know, but what I won't do, I will not lie to you. If I'm making a guess, I'm going to tell you I'm making a guess. And then if we don't know really what it is, hang out after, we'll go figure it out what it is. Not a big deal. We're all here to learn, right? And saying all of that noise, let's get on with it. This is kind of overview. The idea between .NET 5 is it's supposed to be one program, one develop, any program, any platform, any development you want, any that sort of thing, right? It's supposed to be one thing to hold it all, which I think is kind of a holy grail sort of thing, but we're getting closer and closer as we go. If you're not aware of the schedule, right now we're .NET 5, right? It came back out in November. Seems like so long ago now, but also seems like yesterday. Because .NET 6 has already got the release candidates coming out for that to be released in somewhere in November-ish. We don't really know exactly, but that usually when they release these things. And that's going to be LTS. So if you don't know what LTS means, long-term support. So Microsoft here, traditionally, I can't guarantee what this is. Traditionally, Microsoft will guarantee 10 years after you release something on it, especially when it's marked LTS. I don't know the exact specifics of that. Chad may know, but I don't have that handy. I just know that you can, if you decide to adopt .NET 6 when it hits, you've got a long road to go. Hopefully not as long as a road as those VB6 programmers that are still doing their business, you know. So requirements. There are a few requirements that you're going to have. And I'm going to go over some of what I have here. And when I get into the demo world a little bit, I'll show you around what we're playing on is actually with hardware. But I'm currently running Ubuntu 20.04. That's Focal is the name they're using for that in this presentation. Although there's lots of Linux distributions this works on top of. In fact, Mr. Bighead is running .NET 3 on Raspbian, by the way. And you need a .NET 5 SDK for your OS. And there's a dependency package you'll need to install, and we'll go through that. I've got a Raspberry Pi 4. And working on that, you need a favorite Linux editor. Hopefully that's Visual Studio Code, but it doesn't have to be. Myself, I started with VI. There's a bunch of people. Anybody use Emacs? Got Emacs going on there? I know today things like Nano and Pico and that kind of stuff are way more popular for the Linux world, at least just starting out. You will need a network connection, you know, duh. You got to be able to download the stuff. And you'll need root access to the Linux OS. This OS could be a VM somewhere, that kind of thing. And you'll see why you need root in a minute. Again, the nice to haves is Visual Studio Code. You need access to an SSH client, and yes, OpenSSH is included on Windows 10 now. If you didn't know it, you know it now. You can type SSH, boom, go. I also got WSL2 working on my box for a couple of reasons. Windows Terminal, if you're still using command.exe, please don't. Upgrade. You'll be amazed on how much more versatile it is. And of course, in my case, I've got a Windows 10 box that I'm running on a laptop, and I've got the .NET 5 SDK on this too. It just kind of makes things a little easier when you're trying to go look for things. Okay, there's that right there. So let's so what do you need to do to set this thing up? Get on your Linux box. There's the command. Run it. It's going to go out and pull down a bunch of dependencies. They're Debian packages. So any of the Debian distros, there are Debian-based distros out there, well, should work just fine. You probably want to add when you get all said and done with some of this. Well, hold on. Yeah, my notes are messing me up here. So you want to start by doing that, install all the packages. And when you're done installing all those packages, then you're going to want to go get the .NET SDK for your particular OS. Not really your OS, it's more like your CPU. For instance, that's a screen grab from, I don't know, a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, something like that. But you'll see the various things. You'll see the Linux versions of it, and you'll see the ARM 64s and x64s and the Alpine, which is a slimmed down version of some stuff. You want to run it on a Mac, you run it on a Mac, Windows, do all that kind of stuff. You'll also see at .NET install scripts. Now, I saw something the other day that said the .NET install scripts may just work on top of some of the ARM processors. But for the most part, I'll give you links on where to go install this stuff. But for the most part, you'll need to install this by hand. But I'm about to show you how hard, how hard that is to install. You download the thing. You make you a home.net. When you download it, you'll get a tarball, tar.gz or a gzip file, whatever the kids are calling it these days. You literally just unpack the tarball and you've installed .NET for you. If you want to install it for the whole group, the normal .NET commands and executables are going to look for it in usershare.net. You want to set up your path, add your path to it, and away you go. So cool, right? Huh? Could it be that easy? I think that it can. I think that it can. So let me get out here and show you. That's on my my Raspberry Pi, and let me give you a little tour first before we go anywhere. So what I've got sitting on my desk right now, besides the Mr. Big Head there, who can be a bit surly.
That is the best idea I have ever heard.
Yeah. So what we're playing on today is my donkey car. I wrecked it and had to rebuild it, and I haven't got it all going up again. So we're using its brain, a Raspberry Pi 4. I've got a couple of LEDs that I've plugged in. I'll show you the schematic on that. And I've got a push button that will demo on this. So this is what we're running on when I'm SSHing into things. And that's, if you don't have a Raspberry Pi, you should probably get a Raspberry Pi, man. They're like tons of fun. And the 4s with 8 gigs of memory in it, that could be some people's desktop replacement stuff. It's all running Linux though. People say they run Windows on this, but they don't really. They try to. The IoT.NET Core stuff is not supported on here officially. So that's what we're talking to when we're talking to things. Here, back to the I. And so I've already logged in. In fact, I want to demonstrate this. So, right, I've got my Windows terminal. The reason I say I think you should get a Windows terminal because one, you're like, well, I can do that with my command shell. Yeah, you can do that, but can you do that? And then can you do this and have all those shells running for you? And then be able to bounce around them to do different things. Showing it off, right? Yeah, okay. Stop playing. Let me get out of here. Right. Control, and let's go back. All right, everybody can see that decently enough? Scroll it up there. This is my home directory on my Windows box, right? And so yes, I know I'm messing around with the home network here. I should probably install my own DNS thing. I haven't bothered to do that. And this is something I want you to notice. Notice right here, I did not type in a username or a password. It just magically happened, right? You're going to need that to when we get in the Make It Better section. You need to do the same thing for root, and you're like, whoa, root without a password? That's scary. Yeah. But you're in a controlled environment, and when you go to do this in production, you're not really going to be doing the debugging stuff you need the root to do, and we'll discuss that in a little bit too. So I'm here. I made my directory called work over here for doing worky things in there. And so you can get a couple things, .NET list. And I thought, yeah, they give you plenty of good help on this. So I'm just running the same. If you've ever ran .NET commands on your Windows box, those exact same .NET commands work exactly the same on a Linux box, on a Mac. So let's see what I've got running here. .NET. I've only got one SDK on it, and I'm a little old. I'm 101. I showed you 102 before, and I haven't looked, but it's probably up a little bit more. I need to probably go update myself. So in order to do these things, it's easy enough to .NET new, and of course you want to go, what can I new up? Oh, come on, you do me better than that. New options. You can, and well, in this case, we're just going to do a little bit .NET new console, because we all love console apps, right? Name is hello. How about I'm going to spell this? There's a U in there somewhere in there. Anybody? L-O-U. There you go.
Quit. That's pudding.
Close enough?
All right, I'll get you some food. You must be starving.
You got dogs, you got cats, you got kids. I'm surprised my dogs haven't been bugging me. They hear me talking to people and they don't see any other people around, so I must be talking to them, and so they like to come attack me. It's lots of fun. But anyway, that right there is now maybe a new .NET project. If I CD into the hello, I've got my project file there, and let's more some of this so you can see what you get. The same project file you had got on your Windows. Let's look in the program file. Really? Oh, capitalization matters. And the hello world. It's amazing, right? Yep. This is real. Okay. And then in order to run this thing, you've seen all the project. Here, one more time, show you the listing here. Got an object directory and a program file and a project file. .NET run. And this is going to whirl around. I specifically brought up this over here so you could watch to see if we could have any crazy amount of things going on. You'll see a couple of .NET programs running. This only has 4 gigs of RAM in it, but you see we're not really using that much, and it's actually done already, I believe. Yeah. Oh, this is a test. We can run that again. It'll happen faster this time. You're like, well, what did you know, it's not a really big program. And I'm like, I'm not trying to make a big program here, but let's see, what do we have now? Wow, look, we have a bin directory now. Before we didn't have that. What's in that bin directory? Debug, .NET 5. You see my path building up there, right? And now I've got all these different things. I've got a command right there that, oh, come on, really? Oh, Windows got in the way. Sorry, / went the wrong way. And so I can run the command directly from there if I want to, because it did compile it. Really what I'm doing, .NET, come on. Really all I'm doing is selling .NET to run that DLL. Oh, come on. That's for me not rehearsing enough. But all I'm really doing is running that .dll, so I can move that file anywhere I want it to go. You see how big the DLL is? I got me a PDB file there, and I got a bit of runtime configs and that kind of stuff running on that. So it's like just like your Windows application you're used to going on. And that's just all well and good, right? Everybody likes that? Likes that whole experience with the command line and trying to debug it and putting in print line statements and stuff. How about we make it better? How about we make it better? Let me go back to our slides. Shift F5 and switch around. So yeah, it can be that easy. It could be that easy, but we're going to make it a little bit better. So what you need to go do is go get you some Visual Studio Code. Now the code I'm using is Visual Studio Code Insiders. I like playing on the edge, where Visual Studio Code will get updated once a month, maybe. My Insiders edition may get updated once a week or once every couple weeks. So I'm really living on the edge, but not everybody can handle that. So you want to install the remote development extension. You really want to do this. You need the C# because we'll be coding up in C#. Then in order to make all this stuff really work really, really well, you're going to need to do the following. You're going to need to generate a couple of keys. This is how I was able to get in without using usernames or passwords. I've used SSH's ability to take an authorization key. So I use my private key that I keep secure in my box that I don't let anybody have access to. And I give the public side of that key, where it says copy all the pub files over the Pi. That SCP command is already built into your Windows 10, by the way. Comes in the Macs, and the Linux people already have it because they've got SSH for days. You want to put that, you want to move those keys, the pub side of those keys, over to the Linux box, wherever that is. In this case, it's my Raspberry Pi. Then you're going to want to put them in a couple of known locations, and I'll go show you where mine is and where they are so you can see. But I have no ties to this person, but I found this on Linux Eyes. That person did a really good job of making these steps to follow. I didn't think I wanted to recreate all those steps here because I didn't figure it would be all that interesting to see steps after steps after steps when most people can read better than I can. So it's a good link if you don't have it stuff set up already. Right? That's a bit weird. So you got to keep on making it better. Well, you need to give yourself a root, a password. Those are the commands about putting things in the authorized keys there, and I'll go show you those. And they tell the SSH daemon you can log in as root. Really, logging in as root's bad, especially having what I'm about to show you, a no password root login. But this is only for debugging. Because you usually, I mean, this really eats me up because I'm a big LUA, least user access person. I have this argument with my fellow developers all the time because well, I don't have administrator on my box, so I can't run Visual Studio and get my job done. I'm thinking most of the time the answer is yes, you can, and you elevate when you need to. So that keeps the bad people from just coming in, pretending to be you, or getting a little bit of hold of your box and owning everything, right? You still have to have some passwords. You have to do some stuff. So once you update your SSH config file, after you've gone through that other list of setting SSH up, not all Unixes have that set up by default. Save the file, reboot it, and then you should be able to do some stuff. And in order to, you should be able to do some things like log in without root. In fact, let me show you that real fast. For instance, if I wanted to put me up a new window here, SSH root at, you should be able to do this to make the next steps work. -I. Under root is my identity file. Now I'm telling the SSH command to log me in as a specific user. In this case, it's root. And before you go very much further, you should be able to do this and have it work. Because now I'm on as root, much like I was on as Ubuntu, which is the default Ubuntu user before. Speaking of that, I've got those pub files out there just laying around. Those files are useless. The real key is the authorized keys right there. And I'm not going to show you those, but basically I just jam all my authorized keys from my various boxes I have in the lab into this so that I can just log into it without having to have all the passwords to do all the stuff. All right. Let's get back to, come on, and change the thing around. So now you get back and you've got what you're doing right here is you're going out to Microsoft and grabbing the debugger, remote debugger that works on a Linux. You're going to give it its own home directory. And this is going to suck it down and shove it into, not its home directory, it's a VSDBG. That's in that tilde means your home directory. And you're going to drop that into your local user directory because you should have permission to do that. Then when we fire this up in a minute, we're going to be running that as root. And that's going to give us a way to hook into processes on Linux and explore them. And let's see what we got going here. So let me see something here. Okay, so what you're looking at there is a little bit of schematic we're going to be doing. And you're like, yeah, can we just see the demo now? You've talked enough, and heck, you can't even hold a complete sentence sometimes. I go, yeah, I know from East Texas. That's how we roll. So you're going to need to set up a couple more things, but I'm going to show you that here in a minute, right? I'm going to show you that here. So let me switch over, and you can say, thank God I'm done with the slides. Well, I'm not quite done with the slides. I'm done with a lot of them, though. All right. I'm going to leave that terminal still here. All right. And I'm going to pull up my Visual Studio Code. I've already opened. In fact, let me move a couple things. I've already opened up this project. Something I made. I started with a .NET new console, just like you saw before. And this project is already up in the cloud if you want to follow along. So you see it's got the same sort of layout. You got a program file, right? I've got this published batch, which what the heck's that doing? And there's my CS project. The more interesting thing about this CS project is that you'll notice I have more than just that program that I had before. I've got package references. And those are NuGet package references.
Please make the text larger.
Not a problem. I can handle that. Alt. Is that better? I can make it way better if you'd like. Cool.
I can read it now. Thank you.
Now, okay. I'm sorry. I deal with I think because I'm on Zoom calls and things all day long, I think everybody can read that, but I know I forget that some people, sometimes my screen is extra small for folks. Heck, it's extra small for me for sometimes. But basically, it's just like you're doing your other thing. The only problem that you're going to have here that you're going to see, instead of doing in like Visual Studio where you right-click, install the package, you're going to have to use the command line NuGet manager, and just like anything else, and install package, blah 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 blah. Give it, and it'll add it to your project while you're in while you're in this directory. So, and these two things of what logging, you've probably seen a bunch of times. I don't know that you've seen that. I would figure most of you haven't seen that. And this is System Device GPIO. And GPIO stands for General Purpose Input Output. That General Purpose Input Output gives you access. See those rows of pins right there? In fact, do I have a better light? I bet I do. In fact, I know I do. Hold on one second. So those 2 rows of pins you got there, there's a variety of ground pins, just straight voltage pins, PWM pins, digital pins. This is Raspberry Pi, so there's no analog on that. But that system.devices.gpio gives you access to those pins so that you can talk to real world stuff. So we're back to here. So let's go through this program right fast, and then I will talk about the launch in the task files to get it going, and then we'll see that GPIO in action. So close that up a little bit. Standard stuff, threadings, tasks, not a big deal. This is all C#. This is, again, this is where that system devices.gpio comes in. You need one of these controllers that gives you access to the bit of hardware, the chips, that allows you to talk to that controller to do various things. I set up some statics there, not a big deal. I got a main program just like every other .NET program you've ever ran, or core anyways. We do a setup and a run, and we'll look at the setup here real fast. We'll look at the setup first, then we'll go to the run. So down here in the setup, I got me some login. I knew up me a controller. This is a Raspberry Pi 3 driver. I need to tell it that I shouldn't have to. There's currently a bug. I think it was a regression that made me have to tell it that. And in certain versions of Raspberry Pis, you're not going to be able to instantiate this controller because of an issue. I've been tracking it, but I haven't seen any movement on it. With the Raspberry Pi 4, I know this works. I've got a bucket of Pis. Some of them older, some of them newer. Some of my 2s don't react very well to this, but that's okay. 2s are old, that's okay. But I wish it didn't happen that way, but things move on. It's technology. So initiating a pull up on the button. So we're going to open a pin that says, I've got a button attached to this pin, or I've got something attached to this pin. I'm going to use it as input, and it's going to be a pull-up resistor. Now, if you don't know what a pull-up resistor is, I will be hanging out after the Zoom call. I'll be happy to explain all that and probably even show you some of it if you want. But I'll be happy to do that. If you don't know what a pull-up resistor is, welcome to electronics, and come join us. We have a lot of fun blowing up stuff, letting smoke out, and burning and blowing up LEDs. Have a lot of fun doing that. And what that basically tells me is that I'm going to be showing a logic level 1, or in programmer speak, a true, if no one does anything to this. If it's just sitting there and nothing's even connected up to it. I need a couple of outputs because I want to be able to turn my LEDs on and off. I have a blinking LED and an activated LED. One of my LEDs will be working whenever I press the button. The other LED will constantly be blinking to just show that how this stuff works. And I put that pin mode as output, which is all you get to do. You get to write to that. And when you set these pin modes up, they're not read-write. They're one way or the other. You get to use them as input or use them as output. And that's true for direct access to pins doing this method. If you use a system bus, like either SPI or I2C, that changes slightly because those are, like I just said, buses. Just like you would have a service bus where you're putting things in the queue and pulling things out of the queue and accessing it and retrieving information from it. The I2C and SPI set up for these pins allow you to do those sorts of things. Now, when we go to run this thing, this is a grand bit of code. I don't know if we can handle it all. Task run. We're going to do while not done. And of course, you'll see in here, I never set done to true. Or yeah, I never set done to true. So we're going to run forever. The reason I kind of put it that way is because I'll talk about it in Mr. Big Head just a little bit. There's ways for the system to interact that you can have it tell you when that done variable gets set. So you can have the system tell you you're about to die and then be able to handle that situation. So give me a status on it. If the pin value is low, for my button. I'm going to print out a button pressed, and I'm going to make my LED value high, so my LED will come on. In the electronics world, there is no true and false. There is no ones or zeros. There is high and low. And high and low is a relative term. In our world of digital electron, in our programmer world, we like very, very static notions of what is true and what is false. Although, yes, we've got some truthy and falsy things in there, still it's generally one of the other values, right? A truthy thing, you know, it's kind of like, well, yeah, it's there. Okay, I'll call it true, or I'll call it false. Well, in the real world, what's happening is that you've got a 0 and either a 5.5 or a 3.3 voltage level. And that's a really noisy thing. I don't have an oscilloscope here to show you, but I can show you it's pretty noisy. And what we've done is in the digital world, when you're coming up from 0 after a certain voltage, we become a 1. And when we're coming down from 3.3 or 5, after a certain voltage, we become a logical 0 or low in that case. And so you'll never see any of these electronic stuff going, well, this is a 1, that's a 0. No, we got a high or we got a low, because 1s and 0s get a little flaky depending upon the technology you're using. And then all we do down here is we check the constant state. And if it's high, we set it high. If it's true, we set it high. If it's not true, if it's false, we set it low, and we just flip the bit right here and go back and forth. And that's all that it's doing. This actually really bugs me right here, because in the UWP world, UWP version of this, I can set a delegate and I can watch the state of that pin change, and I'll just call a method to flip. In this case, I can't do that. I have to poll, and I'm polling 100 every 100 milliseconds, so 10 times a second. So, okay, cool. That's fine, Harold. How about you get on with it? I'm like, that's a good idea. So let's come over here. I've got a couple of extra program files here that you probably have not seen before. We have task and launch. So I'm going to open them back up, both up real fast. So let's look at task. Task are just, you know, I'm sure most of you have run a lot of build tasks before, like Gulp or Grunt or what's the Jenkins one? Jenkins? Yeah, Jenkins is a test framework, right? So, but any other kind of tasking type framework, you got a build label, our command, a process, and what we're going to do. In this case, I've set up a build task, and I've set up a publish task. And the publish task says, okay, going to run that batch file. But then first of all, you're going to make sure the build task is done, and then you go. Easy peasy, right? Nothing, you know, if you're used to doing make files, I bet everybody out there's done a few of these at least. Some people maybe even more. This is very simplistic. You can get as complicated as you want to be. Specifically when it comes to this problem matcher here, you can get really crazy with this. I think you can even make that a method somewhere and file to go analyze the stuff and get you better reporting than what you're about to see. That's task. The next thing is launch. And we'll get to the launch here in just a second. We're getting there close. I know you're getting a little bit antsy. Hey, I ain't seen nothing blink in a while. I know it. I like blinking things too. So you got two things here, and we'll go over each one of them, but they're doing almost the same thing, but different. We'll start with the launch one down here. We're going to launch it, which means we're going to make a core CLR. We're going to pre-launch task. It's publish, right? We just saw what that publish was. My program is going to be .NET. I'm going to be running out of my home directory on the Raspberry Pi. Here's my arguments. Remember, I showed you running just the DLL before. This is why. I didn't show it just because I like, hey, I need to end up some time. No, this is why. I want you to see this, what we're actually calling to run and do the thing. Here's my directory where we're going to CD into and put some things into it. I'm going to use the internal console, so that should be fun. And this is where it gets just a little bit funky. This is my debugger path, which that's when we set it up before. And so we know where to go. We can call up and fire up the debugger. This is my SSH command, and this is my login. See, I don't have a password. I don't have a root. I don't have a username. I don't have a password. I don't have anything here. If I wanted to put those in here, I could, because all this application is going to do when I hit the go button is ensure the publish event is handled. And then it's going to call SSH with these arguments in it, and then start streaming stuff back and forth to it. SSH works. Some of the other programs don't. Putty will work this way well. I believe TerraTerm works well with this, but not all of them work, because not all of them will take streaming input and force it through the SSH tunnel. The other one we're going to do up here is a little bit different. We're going to attach. So with the attach is going to go out. It's going to say, hey, go get me some remote processes to pick from. And you'll see where it picks up, comes on. And then we're going to run this pipe program like we said before. I did it pretty quick, but if you remember, I did a -i. I specified my private key I'm going to use, and then my user and the ID that I get into. And now I had to, because my home is different, I've got to go hang out and go grab my BSD bug. Hey, yeah, Daisy? My dogs need some loving. All right. And again, this is just, I mean, it looks complicated. In fact, I thought I was going to beat myself up. What is all this? I'm never going to get this, that kind of thing. And then when I looked at it, I'm like, no, I'm just putting arguments on in an array in a JSON object. Man, I do that all the time. I don't know why I thought it was hard. Have you got enough loving yet? Huh? I'll give you a picture of Daisy here in a little bit if you want. So anyway, so that's what we're doing there. And so let's run this thing. And you're like, well, how do you run it? Remember those extensions, those remote extensions I had you load before? It gets you one of these. And you'll see I've got my two launch settings there. It's hard to scratch a dog's ear and talk. So we're going to fire off with the launch in the console. Tell it to go. So it fires up me a console right here. That red is me doing some configuration that I didn't finish. So now you'll see it building it, and it's sending stuff from my local Windows box. It's already built, by the way. It's sending stuff from my local box all over to the Raspberry Pi. And normally I do interpretive dance right here, but that doesn't really go over so well at the same thing. So, you know, I could tell you a UDP joke, but I don't know if you get it. Okay, that's supposed to be a dad joke there too. Got a few of those things. So as soon as this gets all sent over, now what I'm doing here, I will tell you, I've got a very simplistic version of this going on. It's just fire it, do it all, go out of that. If you look in my publish.batch file, it's possible to make this smarter, so you're only sending what you need. And it's also possible that when you make this publish, you're compiling this for publishing, just to tell it that, hello, you will have everything you need in the .NET framework where you're going. Don't bother doing anything else or publishing anything else but the actual DLL, because all that other stuff will be there when you get there. Okay, close terminal. Now we're actually running it. Oh no! Oh no, we have an error. Am I selling it? Am I selling it like this never happened before? All right. I actually wanted to show you this happen. And this comes back to that root thing that I've been talking about on and off last little bit. You see the error? says error 13 initializing the GPIO driver. Means it couldn't initialize it. It tried, it couldn't. You're already seeing some effects of some of the being able to debug this thing without print line statements and that sort of stuff here. But you notice I've got a call stack. I can break on various exceptions. I don't have any watch things, but I got an exception here with my locals, and I've got all kinds of fun stuff in there. Right? What has to happen? I want to stop this now. And we're going to talk about what has to happen. Remember what you're doing. Remember what you're doing. You're talking to this hardware from user space. So in order to go all the way through from your user space through the kernel to this bit of hardware to do stuff, you kind of have to have privs, right? And so in order to make that happen, you need to be root. Well, in the Unix world of things, there's a good way to be root. Let's see, let's go find my program now. Examples, push blink. There's all the great stuff. Let's go down into our bin. You'll see all the extension stuff that got dropped in there, all the other things going on there. You see the March 18th, you still got, see what got updated. And then we can, if I ran it right here, I get the same exact error, but I didn't have to go all the way over here to do all that. In this case, I'm going to then sudo become root, which is where I'd expect most things to do that. And we're going to run that push blink again. And let me get us some better graphical funness. Yeah. So now you can see the close-up camera, the GPIO, and the thing running. So if I go pick up my button and I press and hold the button, see I'm holding the button down every 10th of a second. Every time the light blinks, I get a new thing, and you'll see my blue light comes on whenever I press the button, however fast I press it. I thought that's pretty cool. I don't know if you've ever done that on a hardware thing, but I mean, writing a bit of C# code to turn on a light, man, that gets me going. It really, really does. And I'm like, well, what about all this debugger stuff that you were trying to show off that it blew up on you and all that kind of stuff? I'm like, well, yeah, it kind of did. But that's why I have the attach. So now that I have this thing running over here, it's running, it's going, you can see it some more when I press on it, right? I've got my attach. And what this is going to do, because we just saw it, it's going to go over as root, ask for a list of processes from my remote debugger. I tell it I only care about the push blink process here, and it's going to attach it to me. So now it's attached. I have running threads. I've got breakpoints. I've got all those kinds of things. You're like, well, does it really work there, hardware boy? And I'm like, I don't know. How about I do like I do in every other Visual Studio thing I've ever used, and let's set a breakpoint. Right? And so you guys are watching the breakpoint. I got my button. I got my thumb on the button and push. The green light stopped. The blue light did not come on. Of course, I've let it go now, but if you look, I've got a breakpoint in my code on my Windows box. And I've got all the stuff you'd expect to get too. For instance, I can go in and do an inspection. See where it doesn't say high or low? It doesn't say 1 or 0, it says low. I can go look at some of my static stuff that I've got going on here. Right? If I had other things on there, I could, what's my constant state? That's false. And that's, of course, that's going to be, it's going to become true the next time through the list. and that I can then step over. And you see what I'm about to do here? I'm about to write hide to the blue pen. You guys watching it? Blue. And so I have all those controls that you're used to having. And yes, this is a very small program, but it gives you the idea and confidence that you can write larger programs and be able to debug into them. And then when I'm all ready to go again, I can tell it to go and everybody's happy. I take off my breakpoint, and then I'm back to blinky, blinky, blinky all over the place. And then my blue light's lighting up and I'm pressing the button like a madman to the console. All right. So as fun as that is, you can do some more. And let me go back to my slides here right fast. All right, enough of that. Once that is, we have Mr. Big Head. And one of my my Twitch streamers named him Mr. Big Head. I was calling it Talking Head for the last time, but they kept calling it Mr. Big Head. And so I'm like, okay. Oh, wait a minute. Let's at least look like we're professional. I'm like, okay, there's Mr. Big Head. The eyes, as you've seen them moving around, that's an Adafruit package. Yeah, that's an Adafruit package. Go look it up. It's really pretty cool. The mask itself is off of Thingiverse. Everything else on the Mr. Big Head, I modeled up and put it together. And it's a C# worker project. Really? There you go. It's a C# worker project. And what is a worker project? Same thing as a service. You ever go into services on your Windows box? Do all those sorts of things? You do, and you do .NET new. In fact, I'll go do that in here a second. There's a GitHub link down there if you want to go look and see what I've done so far on it. One of my goals to do this is, thanks to Chad, is to write a C# worker service that's a Twitch bot and put it on the Mr. Big Head here and have it do all the things as well. That's going on. You hit the button, he speaks to you. The little when I've got it enabled in a certain mode, the joystick there will control the eye movement and the blink on it. So let me get out of here. Get over here. So this is how I started that project. And I would like to go over it with you just real fast. Make sure people can see. .NET new worker. Hello worker. It's going to restore a few things. And we can go into. Really? Same thing you've seen before. There's a little bit more to it, though. A little bit more to it. If we look at the program file. Really? Program file is not a big deal. You've probably seen this code before if you've done any kind of service-related work. It literally makes a host builder, configures a host service called the worker in it, and tells it to go. Easy peasy. So let's look at the worker. Worker's fairly straightforward. You got a task. It's got a cancellation talking to it. And that's pretty much it. All this worker's going to do is out there once a second print out a little word, date time running on there. But if I do this and look at it, what that create host builder is doing, it does a lot of work for you. This knows how to play with the system, meaning as the system starts up, the system will call it and say, hey, worker, get yourself going. At some point, though, if that worker needs to shut down, say, worker, shut down. You got however many seconds before I'm going to shut you down. Take care of your business. Shut yourself down. Right? It interacts with the Linux system just like it would interact with your Windows system. Also, as far as logging goes, with the journaling, it logs to system log locations, just as everything else on the system daemon works. System net. And so I thought that was pretty cool. And as far as showing off a little bit on the Mr. Big Head, I'd like to show you off a little handiwork. Get him over here. Yeah. So you see the eyes moving? That's a Python program, believe it or not, running around. And the button, push the button.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, how about another one?
It depends.
It depends. Yeah, the ultimate consultant answer. It depends. In the back side of this thing, that's a Raspberry Pi. In this case, it's an older 3, so I had to put its own wireless card on there. Where all the wires plug into, that's a hat, and the wires at the back, those are OLED devices. I had to model up some things to mount those windows there. This is really supposed to be a scary hockey mask from Thingiverse, but I decided to repurpose it, and I think I made it creepier. And so they all plug together, and I got some speakers coming out there and a little bit of power. So that's a walk around a project or two. When it comes down to it, oh, wait a minute. You guys didn't see that, did you? Let somebody speak up. So there's the 3 wires, fat, OLEDs being held on crazily with wires of doom everywhere, and pushing the button.
I think you shouldn't have gotten out of bed today.
Yeah, I think you're right, Mr. Big Head. I probably shouldn't have gotten out of bed today. And of course, creepy eyeballs. One more time for the creepy eyeballs. Come on. Yeah, blink them at me. Got it. Right. And let's see. Chad, one of the things, because I know you're still listening, I was thinking about making a presentation about how all that worker stuff works and all the journal stuff and all those sorts of things. So, and I might be submitting that to the Code Palooza. Just thinking. I got some other ideas.
Pretty cool.
I got some other ideas too, right? On how that works and how it goes in and plays with it, and you know, those sorts of things, right? And let's go back up. And so there's my talking head. And so now I've got this is my time to ask you folks. One, this is my ask. You know, go install .NET 5, write a program or two. You know, go get you a Raspberry Pi and some parts. You know, if you want to know what parts to get or whatever, you got a way to get a hold of me. I'll be happy to tell you, and we won't break the bank getting it. I think Raspberry Pis can be had for as little as about $30-35. The one I'm using, I think, is about $50. You can get a box of parts for another $25-30, and you get to go play with a lot of this stuff. Blink some lights on your own C#. Right? Follow me on Twitch and Twitter. Yell at me. Give me some feedback on this thing to say, hey, you should have done better here, or you should have done this there, or you know, can you wear a different colored shirt next time? That's fine, whichever. You know, that's how we get better. And any of those repos that I've shown up there, if you've got a better way to do something, or you want to improve my code, or I say my code, make it our code, bring it on. That's how everybody learns. That's how everybody learns. So those are my ask. And I'm going to go to the next slide and make sure there's no questions. So here's a bunch of links and junk. Again, that very, very first link page that I had has a GitHub repo that has this slide deck in it already. And so without saying all that, that's about all I have.
Can you make that just a little bit bigger?
What now?
Can you make that slide just a little bit bigger?
I can attempt. Oh, wait a minute. I know what I can make it even better because I am a bad Twitch person.
There, thank you.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah. So yeah, the talk is already at the top again. Go pick up the slides, look over them, and you'll get to see all my behind the scenes notes and stuff, about half of which I throw out and change most of the time. But and some of the folks that helped me along the way, which is Scott Hanselman helped, like who hadn't he helped, at some point by a blog post or something. And yeah, so that's about all I've got. Hopefully you got something out of this. Like I say on my Twitch feed, that whether it's from my mistakes or your successes, I hope you learned something today. I'm going to hang out on the Zoom call afterwards for as long as anybody cares. And yeah, that's about all I got. So Chad. Ooh. Did I miss something? Or maybe I should do some interpretive dance. Maybe we could ask Mr. Bighead a question. Hey, Mr. Bighead, how you feeling today?
Ralph helps so much.
Yeah, Ralph is my cat who tends to run in the middle of all my stuff most of the time. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to guess people are done with the links slide. I'm going to guess. You'll yell at me if I'm not. So I will do this.
Chad is
Chad.
not on the call anymore.
Yeah, that's why I noticed a message a minute ago that said that you are now the host.
I'm the host?
Yeah, I didn't realize that Chad fell off, so he's probably
That
desperate.
ain't good.
On.
Okay, man, that's crazy. Okay, maybe you can get back on or something.
Oh, I'm sure he will.
I don't mean to be the host, but all right. But I will tell you, I'm getting better at it. But I'm so used to being in front of people and interacting and seeing body language that sometimes doing this gets really difficult. Because I like to be funny. I try to be funny, and whether a joke lands or not gives me clues to do. And then, me looking at my white light ring of death shining at me just doesn't give me a whole lot of feedback some days.
And it's like being a radio talk show host, right?
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. I think I've gotten a little bit better at it over the last year, but I can't. But well, you just saw an evidence of it. I don't think I'm very, very good at doing that. But I enjoy. I don't really care because I enjoy sharing, and hopefully somebody got something out of this. And the fact that somebody made me ask the link slide better, that I've done. That's at least one person goes to the link or one person goes and checks this out. Out of everything, I figure I've done my job.
And he finally graced us with his presence again.
Chad's back.
Yeah, I lost internet.
He was trying to turn it over to you, and you're like, he left.
Yeah,
He went to bed.
No.
I bored Chad as well. I mean, hey, get out of here.
No, just that's the second time today my internet has just died on me.
Yeah. I am going to change cameras again.
So when you die like that, does your Twitch feed die along
No.
with it? Then?
No, because it's all in the cloud because it's actually going directly through Zoom.
Cool.
So with that, because I have no idea if people ask questions or not. I mean, do we have any questions?
Yeah.
All right.
Or would you like to see anything else or whatever you want to? I mean, I got a bunch of junk laying around here. If any of that piqued your interest, I twitch. I show things off. Chad knows that. He twitches. He shows things off. We like showing things off. So
It's funny today talking to my boss, and he was like, "So, what's the deal with the name Twitch?" Right? He's like, "That's not what I think of when I think of something to, a gaming and interactive platform, right?"
yeah. Well, I think the name came from the classification of games, which are first-person shooters, because they called them Twitch games. Because literally, you'd be going along and you'd see something out of the corner of your eye and you'd twitch over and shoot at it. Right? It's one of these things. Whoa, whoa, whoa. And I believe that's where the Twitch word comes from. I don't hold me to that. I've just been around long enough to hear the name come up and then see this product come up. So
Maybe it's because you end up having so much caffeine that you end up twitching.
that may be true too. That may be very true. I've never competed in any of the BYOC bring your own computers or massive LAN parties and QuakeCons. I've never competed in them, but I've helped run a couple of them, and I don't know how those kids do it. Literally, I've seen them just shaking. They have got so much caffeine in they have their monster drink, or in this case, it was balls at the time. And they're drinking more of it, and they're sitting there shaking because they can't stop shaking, but they want the caffeine. Okay.
Well, and depending with that, your hand might be shaking because you're getting ready to throw the can at someone if it's a LAN party.
Well, that might be true too. So, any of you folks going to go get you a pie and make a light blink, make an LED blink?
Maybe eventually.
Yeah, eventually. Yeah, lots of fun. I got all kinds of different blinky things around here. I've got one of the projects I've got coming up that I'm going to make. This is a circle basically of addressable LEDs. They're RGB, so they can be any color. And I know we're going to have in-person meetings coming up soonish, sort of. And so I'm going to plug this into the internet with a web page that you can set it as a countdown timer, maybe put a little QR code to get you the web page on it. And it'll just sit there and count down. And when it hits 0, it'll become annoyingly flashy. Like the meeting's over, and using some kind of explanation, the old shifted number key covering up of cuss words at you or something, to be annoying. Anyway, that's the idea.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, big things, lots of stuff. I didn't really go over the inner workings of the Mr. Big Head, but I've got about 30 different sayings out there. Most of them are very surly. Some of them are like yes and no, and akin to the Magic 8 Ball. That was that day, the Magic 8 Ball. Like, hey, am I going to be great today? I'm like, no. Okay, thanks. Most of his are negative. There's things in there like, I could agree with you, but then we'd both be wrong, and stuff like that. Fun stuff.
All right. Well, sure enough, real quick. So everyone on Twitch, thank you for joining tonight. Again, I will be back on tomorrow night, my normal 8 o'clock time. Or Harold will be streaming. He streams at 8 o'clock Central Time, so you'll be able to check out either one of us tomorrow night. So everyone, thank you so much.